VCT Masters Madrid has been insane so far, and Sentinels are looking like they are the best team in the entire tournament. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we are talking about the matches that have happened so far in the VCT Masters Madrid tournament. It has been wild so far. Some crazy matches happening, some players performing to a new level that we haven't seen, and just a crazy amount of fun Valorant to watch. So, in today's video, we're going to go through the matches that have happened so far, and we're going to talk about specifically about the team that looks like they're probably going to win it, Sentinels. So this is the board I've put together. These are all the matches that have happened so far during VCT Masters Madrid. Starting with the first day of the tournament, March 14th, with the first match of the entire tournament, KC Carmine Corp versus FPX, Fun plus Phoenix. Now, FPX seen as the team with the lowest expectations in the entire tournament. Not a lot of people expecting this team to go very far, versus Carmine Corp, a team that everybody is expecting to be very good and potentially win. So the results of this match, not really too surprising, and Carmine Corp did end up winning 2-0. In all fairness to FPX, it wasn't a complete wash of a match. The first map was Icebox. Carmine Corp did take that one 13-8, whereas the second map was a bit closer with a 13-10 scoreline in favor of Carmine Corp. So FPX definitely giving KC some trouble on that second map with Lotus, and I feel like that definitely benefited Sentinels in their match against KC today, because they got to see KC kind of struggle on this map in certain points, in fact not having a lead going into the second half. But they did end up pulling it together, with Narrate having a plus 19 during the entire match, looking very solid, living up to the expectations so far. Magnum plus 7, Shin plus 5, Martine minus 3, and Tomzy minus 7, so a bit of a struggle for Martine and Tomzy, but Martine still did get a fair amount of kills. Unfortunately, he was the second lowest on his team, so you definitely want your duelist player to be doing better than that, but hey, you won the match. Whereas on the FPX side, Life having a plus 10, and then everybody else on their team with minuses across the board, which is kind of to be expected. Life is their best player, and the rest of the team just can't perform at the same level as some of these other teams. But hey, they have a match coming up as well, so they're not totally out of it. So we'll see how they do, and there is definitely some decent things you can take from this. And then the second match of that day was Gen.G versus Loud. Now, this was definitely a clash of titans, Loud being one of the best teams in the Americas versus Gen.G, who were the top seed coming out of the Pacific League. Ended up being a 2-1 victory, definitely looking pretty close at times, both teams going back and forth. And unfortunately, I do think this is where the loss of Ass Pass for Loud does kind of come in, because while they can still be one of the best teams in their own region, with Sadak being a fantastic IGL, Les being a fantastic Viper player, and definitely a really good core of that team. But while Quick is a formidable player, when you don't have that top talent like Ass Pass, it definitely shows in these international tournaments, and unfortunately, Loud just doesn't look the same like they did in international tournaments last year. Unless you're counting Tokyo, because they've actually already done better than they did in Tokyo, because they didn't win a map on that one. But it's not like Loud just rolled over and died anyway. They did still take it to Gen.G. Icebox. It was a 13-11 in favor of Gen.G, so Loud keeping that one pretty close. Breeze, Loud did much better, going 13-8 versus Gen.G, looking very solid there. Tui's having a great game with that plus 12. Surprisingly on the Viper, you would probably expect less to be on that one, but they have kind of switched up their comps now. And then Ascent, unfortunately for Loud, was 13-5 in favor of Gen.G. Now, this is where the discussion about Loud's comp came in. They've been running a Phoenix Breach comp on at least 4 of the maps in the map pool so far, and there was discussion that maybe this kind of unexpected comp, especially on Ascent, would maybe see a bit of change in this tournament. It did work for them at kickoff. They were able to kind of catch teams on the off foot with this very surprising comp, but the discussion about it was that they didn't have a dive agent. So not having that dive agent to really just get onto site, get into spaces, and just really take those fights, instead of having a Phoenix Breach comp where it's a bit more like you're trying to take those just in between spaces. So it's a bit more of a reserved playstyle. But if you have Yoru instead of Phoenix in this comp, then you have some more flexibility with that, a bit more aggression there. So that's what they did. That's what people were kind of suggesting that they do if they wanted to change that comp, is go to Yoru instead of Phoenix, because Yoru at this point is seen as better than Phoenix, as well as doing a lot of things that Phoenix does, just kind of better, and just being a lot more easier to just jump in and just be that dive agent. But unfortunately for Loud, it didn't work. Quick, -2 on the Yoru on that third map on Ascent, whereas Karen, Meteor, Texture all looked very good during this match, and Munchkin and Lakia not having bad games either. Lakia at 5-13, so really not great for him right there, but the rest of his team were able to pick up the slack. So this is kind of where push comes to shove for Loud. Again, they were able to look very good in the kickoff event, showing that the loss of their best player wasn't really hurting them, but I do think it kind of hurts them here, because do you truly have the top talent to really go against the top teams in the world against other regions? I still think Loud are going to do very well. I do like their chances tomorrow. They are against FPX, so they should win that one. But never say never. Loud's got to be ready for that match. And on the Gen.G side, Gen.G are looking fantastic this tournament. They look like they haven't skipped a beat at all. They have qualified for playoffs, beating Loud and also beating EDG later in the tournament. So Gen.G, don't sleep on them. They could potentially be the winner of VCT Masters Madrid. They are the second team in playoffs, as I said, and they look like they deserve to be there. If they get to play Sentinels, that should be an insane match, and I do kind of hope that happens. So we'll see. They easily look like the best team in APAC right now, because PaperX disappointed me. March 15th, we get to the matches with EDG versus PaperX, this one going 2-1 in favor of EDG. Now, this is the first time EDG has beat PaperX. I think this is their fourth time playing them. They've lost every time, and this was probably their best opportunity to do so. PaperX are without Jane, so one of their best players is gone. Monyet not fitting in as well as maybe PaperX had hoped. Not that I'm putting this loss on him. There were a couple factors. EDG just looked like the better team throughout a lot of this match. Overall, these performances on the PaperX side are definitely leaving a bit to be desired. Monyet being a -13 on the Omen and the Raze. Something definitely had a really rough match, especially on the get-go. There was some stat that he didn't throw his Dizzy until a minute into each round, and it didn't even hit anyone. So maybe don't put him on get-go again. It doesn't seem like it's really working. He was -8 during this entire match, and for something, kills and key ratio matters because he's supposed to be that duelist player. And EDG, they just looked hungry and they just looked like the better team. Smoggy with an impressive +9. Can with maybe a bit of a good match, but maybe not as good as you would have liked. +4 only for him, and a VLR rating of 1.06. So overall, EDG, they just looked better. On Sunset, it ended up being a 13-8 in favor of PaperX, so they did have the jump on this match. But then Bind, EDG clawed their way back and won quite a bit in a row to take this one 13-9, and then Split, same scoreline, 13-9 in favor of Edward Gaming. So definitely really rough for PaperX there. I still think that they can maybe make something out of this tournament for them. It is just the first match. They've started tournaments slow in the past before, but I do worry about their chances against some of these teams because a lot of these teams look a lot better than they do. Their next opponent is Team Heretics, so that's going to be a tough match because Heretics, they did lose to Sentinels, but they did give them a pretty good fight to get there. So it's going to be tough for PaperX overall. EDG, same for them. So we'll see how their bracket goes. Speaking of that Sentinels versus Heretics game, that one went in favor of Sentinels 2-1. Not to take away anything from Team Heretics, they did look very good. They definitely looked like at the start that they were a bit jittery, they were a bit nervous. This is a team full of young people and rookies, and they also are the hometown team, Team Heretics being an organization out of Spain. So there was a lot of pressure on that, but you also have the crowd behind you. They definitely had the crowd behind you for this match, so it definitely helped them a bit once they kind of got comfortable, but they couldn't get it over the finish line. Second with an insane match going +14 with a rating of 1.17. Second, I think, is the best player at this tournament right now. He very clearly looks like he's on top. Zelsis with a solid performance as well on 3 different agents. 10, -1, but he did play the get-go and he looked phenomenal on it, actually. That was one of the biggest surprises of changing their comp on Bind. There was discussion about their Bind comp where they were playing 10s on Yoru and their Bind just didn't look as strong as it did during the offseason. So they decided to make a change and play him on that Gecko, and it ended up working. Miniboo looking insane as well. He had a great match. He was just freaking out the entire time. +19 with a rating of 1.23. Very solid play from him there. Lotus was 13-9 in favor of Sentinels. Sunset, very, very good anti-stratting from Team Heretics here, taking it to them 13-5. That's very impressive on one of Sentinel's best maps. And then that Bind game being an absolute nail-biter, 13-11. So while Team Heretics did lose this one, they did make quite the game out of it, especially with that Sunset map. As I was talking about on that Bind comp, 10s on the get-go, 21, 17, and 8, +4. Very solid work from him there. So Sentinels looked fantastic, but Team Heretics absolutely made this a very tough match for Sentinels to win, and they look absolutely terrifying. Do not be surprised if they end up making it to playoffs. Moving on to the matches that did happen today, March 16th, we had Sentinels versus Carmine Corp. This is the match that a lot of people really wanted to happen going into this tournament, and it ended up not going to a third map to pretty much everyone's dismay, because man, it would have been insane to have a third map on here. But Sentinels, I think this is where they really truly establish themselves as the favorite, beating the team that is considered the other favorite. So, I mean, they've gone through 2 EMEA teams now, so we'll see how they do if they play a Pacific team, but I'm not doubting this team at any point. And on the KC side, them losing 2-0 does not tell the whole story of this match. They did make both maps pretty close. That first map on Split was 13-8 in favor of Sentinels, so you can't really call that super close, but they did absolutely make a game out of it. Sentinels looked in control to start the match, going up 5-1 by round 6, but then KC clawed their way back on their defense side, making it a tied game going into the second half. And that is where they took the lead, winning 2 in a row, winning that pistol and then the bonus, and then Sentinels just stormed their way back to win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rounds in a row to take that first map. Extremely impressive work by Sentinels there. I think this is them establishing that they are the best team in the world at Split. Do not take this team to Split if you can help it. I know KC also had Split as their best map as well going into this match, so I'm very glad we got to see both these teams play against each other on it. But at the same time, I think everybody else should just try to ban that now, because this map just looks like it's just owned by Gen.G. As evident by these stats that we have here. Zekin with the plus 14, 10s. Again, God, 10s is so back. I love it. He's plus 11. And that's on Omen too. He's doing this while playing characters that aren't known for fragging out. Extremely, extremely impressive work. Gen.G, great match for him on the Cypher, 12, 9, and 5 with a plus 3. And Sassy going -2, not really doing much there, but he didn't really need to. And Zelsa's having a decent map as well, 13, 14, and 5 with a -1. So, not great, but again, when you had Zekin and 10s just looking like Shaq and Kobe, you really don't need anybody else to do much. You just need them to kind of tread water. On the KC side, some rough matches from Magnum and Tomazy over here. Narrate -4, definitely hoping for a bit more out of him on that map. But Martin -1, Shin going +3. Shin seemed like he was always just in situations where he ended up just being the only player alive. It was kind of crazy. He won a couple like 1v2s, but it just seemed like he always ended up being that last person on the team alive, which is probably why he has the best stats, because he was dying the least. Lotus ended up being a 13-11 in favor of Sentinels. Carmen Corp almost tied it up. They had an insane round 22 to get themselves within 1. It was a crazy clutch by Narrate on that round 22. He kills 2 players with, I think, exactly or a bit over 4 seconds left to go. It takes 4 seconds to plant the spike. He gets the plant with like half a second left, and then he gets the final kill on Zelsis, and that gets KC within 1. But then they can't turn that into another round win, because Sentinels did take it to them on that seaside and just killed all of them, which meant that they were in control. They had the much better buy for that final round, and Sentinels took this match. The Clout Bowl was over at that point. One thing I want to go back to on Split is I want to talk about these character comps. Sentinel's character comp was much, much better in my opinion than KC's. I know KC have had success with this comp here, but my question about it is I feel like they should probably have a Cypher. John was getting a lot of value out of his Cypher with the trips, the cameras, just everything. He was doing a great job with that. Whereas with Magnum on the Fade, Fade is good on Split, and if you have Fade instead of a Cypher, you're still getting kind of some of the same things. So you can get value out of that Haunt, but I just feel like you should probably have Cypher instead of a Fade there. So while KC have been winning with this comp, I do think Sentinels, just looking at their comp, it's much better. John doing a lot better on that Cypher than I felt like Magnum was doing on the Fade, and I definitely think that that was part of the pendulum swing. But overall, KC, they definitely didn't bend over and just let Sentinels take it. They did give them a pretty good match, but hey, history remembers the winners, so we'll see if KC can bounce back from this. I think they can, and for Sentinels, again, I think this establishes them as the favorites in this tournament. Moving on to the other match that happened today, we have Edward Gaming versus Gen.G. Gen.G taking this one in a 2-1 victory with a decisive third map. Very impressed by Gen.G so far this tournament. They have lost a map on each of their matches, but they've also won both of their matches so far, so they're probably going to have a couple things to clean up for playoffs, but they're in the playoffs and they're sitting pretty. Looking at the maps, Edward Gaming took Icebox 13-8, Split went in favor of Gen.G 13-5, and then Breeze almost as bad, 13-6 in favor of Gen.G. But Gen.G had an insane streak on that first half to make it, I believe it was 11-1 at the half. So definitely very unfortunate from Edward Gaming, showing some weaknesses on that Breeze map and not really good for them on Split either. So this is kind of the thing with EDG, is one match they can look really good and they can play spoiler to a team like Loud, a team like Paper X, as they did in this tournament, but then they kind of get farther in the tournament, teams kind of learn them a bit more, and they end up falling short. Can did have a great match with a plus 18, 63 kills, absolutely insane there, but Meteor matched him with a similar performance of 58 kills and a plus 19, so very solid performance by a lot of these players on the Gen.G side, whereas as kind of the rest of EDG, aside from Kankan, didn't look like they were doing much out here. Kankan has nearly or more than twice the amount of kills than every other player on his team, so definitely looking like he was kind of hard carrying here. Whereas with Gen.G, you see a much more even amount of kills, much more even rating, and you can see why they won this match. A valiant effort for EDG for sure, but they're going to have to do more if they want to truly be seen as contenders in any international tournament. So those are the matches that happened so far. We do have 2 matches tomorrow. It is Loud versus FPX and Team Heretics versus PaperX. Doing some quick predictions, I'm going to go with Loud over FPX, and I'm going to go with Heretics over PaperX. I hope PaperX wins. I really want to see this team do something at an international that, that they can actually maybe win one, but it's not looking like this is the one, unfortunately. And for the 2 teams that are in playoffs at this point, Sentinels and Gen.G, they get a lot of rest time now. They can sit back and watch the other teams fight it out. And I think Sentinels are absolutely the favorites, but don't sleep on Gen.G either. I'd be very curious to see how a match between Gen.G and Sentinels would go. I think that'd be an absolute banner. But Sentinels, they've had the hardest road so far. They've had the hardest road during kickoff as well. So they're just a team that, they have no quit. They're able to come back. They were down in a lot of the maps that they've played so far, but they're just able to fight their way back. There's no quit in that team. That's the most impressive thing about this new Sentinels roster. They do not give up on maps, and it shows. Anyways, let me know what you guys thought of this tournament so far. Please click like if you enjoyed the video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.